live. I'm reading Prelude to the Landing on Planet Earth. I'm still at chapter 5, Encounters with the Opposition, and I hadn't realized that it is actually not very much, so this will be a very short chapter. This is about a journey which is yet to begin of 3 people, Phyllis Schlemmer, Andrija, Puharich and Sir John, and they are to go on a journey through the Middle East. This was published in 1977. Phyllis came out of trance feeling good and without mishap, and the moving exhortations and assurances of this communication helped them all get through the trials and tensions of the final days. Another thing that helped was the diversion afforded by the delivery, erection and first use of the Faraday cage. It was delivered on the 18th, and they spent most of the next 2 days getting it set up and equipped. It was set up in the library, where it took up most of the floor space and left only a narrow book-lined passage around it. A heavy metal rectangular box of dimensions 8 by 8 by 12 feet. It had a heavy door that shut tightly and quietly, and Andrija equipped the interior with 3 chairs, a desk, and his recording apparatus. "Oh, we have some friends in here," said Phyllis, when they went into the cage to work for the first time, and she described some lights and colors and shapes that she could see and which she knew signified the presence of the space people. She was enthusiastic to work under the new conditions. "Well, now we can control the heat, the light, and the electrical environment that we work in," said Andrija to Tom at the beginning of his first session in the cage. "Are there any further improvements we can make?" Tom answered with instructions to line the interior of the cage with 3 layers of copper foil. They should also all obtain copper bracelets to wear during communications in future. The bracelets should be molded so that they were as closely in contact with the skin as possible and be worn just above the pulse on both wrists. Also, when they had obtained the bracelets, they were to leave them in the cage for 3 days so that they could be worked on, for copper, after being submitted to certain processing, was a great aid to communication. If all these conditions were fulfilled, Tom said, they would be able to work at a higher rate of vibration. Although the opposition would not be entirely excluded from the cage, the cruder elemental forms would be, and its manifestations would tend to be subtler and cleverer. The opposition was not going to be totally inactive after the 22nd, but its attack would be less consistent and sustained, and the time of cosmic crisis would be over. There was going to be, however, a situation of worsening crisis on Earth, which may require their intervention. Between the 8th November and 12th December, there would be increased potential of a war breaking out in the Middle East, Tom said, and it might be necessary for them to go to that area. "When you have completed this period, there are very few things that cannot be accomplished," Tom had told them on the 16th of October. And 2 days later he said that because of the energy they had created, the danger of war had temporarily receded. The danger had been that the United States and Britain would foment trouble in the Middle East in order to compromise Israel and protect their oil interests. The US President had met with the Security Council that day, and there had been a swing away from a warlike posture. But their deliberations would not be completed until the following Monday, and each day until then the trio in Ossining should sit in meditation and send guidance and energy to the decision-makers in Washington. President Ford, Tom said, could create problems. Ford, he correctly prophesied, would be the target for an assassination attempt within 2 years, made not by opposing forces but by people in your country who will think he is a fool. So before their period of trial was over, the trio received intimations that this period of intense subjectivity and introversion would be followed by one of extraversion, of their playing a significant role in the international political situation. Given the dates 8th November to 12th December as the time of political crisis, they must have been relieved that they were going to be able to have a couple of weeks off to relax and attend to their private affairs between rescuing the universe and rescuing the world from their respective crises. It is a joyous time for the universe because of you, Tom told them at the beginning of the session they held on the 23rd of October. We do not flatter you. We tell you the truth. We are overjoyed because this is a great day and a time of joy in the universe. To celebrate the occasion, he divulged some more of the information about past lives that had previously been withheld, lest the opposition should overhear it. We understand that in your physical world it is difficult for you to relate to other than what you are, he said, but it was important that they should learn to do so, and today in some future meetings they would be given information that they would have to subsequently review in their minds, work on and try to understand in relation to their present lives and work. As this information about the previous incarnations of the three is not of particular interest to anybody else, and as it does rather overtax one's credulity, I will not report it in full here, but will give you just one interesting example. John was told that one of his incarnations was as Peter, not the Peter that was with Jesus, Tom said, but the Peter that was alone. That was a mystery to both John and Andrija, so John asked which period this Peter had lived in. Tom consulted and returned with the information that the date was about AD 1090. John asked which country he had worked in. Near Jerusalem, Tom said, but then he said he would check, and after a pause corrected his statement. They tell me that a trip was made to Jerusalem. The further information threw no light on the identity of Peter, but Tom said, if you look, you will find, and left the subject at that. They did look after the session, and under the listing of Peter in an encyclopedia, they found one known as Peter the Hermit, the Peter that was alone, Tom had said, who had rallied the peasants of France with his emotional revivalist preaching to participate in the first ill-fated crusade during the 1090s and had entered Jerusalem with the survivors in 1098. At the conclusion of this 23rd of October communication, John asked, now that this period is over, can you give us any general information about our future plans? Yes, Tom replied. The most important thing we must do is work towards the preservation of the planet Earth. As we have told you before, if something is not done to reverse the devastation that has been perpetrated on the planet Earth within 200 of your years, there will be an ice age. The important thing at this time is to prepare for the landing, which will bring the technology to help and save the planet. The plan to alert humankind by interfering with television communications was still in effect, and a unit was working on it. There was also now another extraterrestrial civilization working with them, named Ashand. Its field was creativity, and it would work through many people. Matthew Manning, the young English psychic who had recently been astonishing scientist as much as Geller had done the year before, was from Ashand, and Tom said one of his talents was that he could draw and paint us. Yuri himself was still struggling with his personality, but there was a possibility that he might come back to the work and be involved in healing. One of the things John and Andrija could do was to pursue a plan they had all been discussing for some time, to convene a conference of all the scientists who worked with Yuri, for their collective testimony would convince themselves and others that what Yuri did was genuine, and make them ask how these things could occur. Another thing they should do was plan to make a film that would make ordinary people aware of what was going on in the universe and make them ask questions. But all these sub-projects might have to be put aside, Tom intimated, if the situation in the Middle East deteriorated. The three were now going their separate ways for a short time, but, he stressed, they must be prepared to be recalled at short notice and to travel east. So that was the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6 is Ambassadors Extraordinary, and I look forward to reading that. Have a lovely Saturday, the 1st of March.